So let's get into today's video where I'm going to talk about the best settings for videography on your Canon M6 Mark II. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now today I would like to start this video by giving you all this great news that my channel has hit 100 subscribers. Yes, 100. I know it's not a huge number in the YouTube community where you need at least 1,000 to start getting paid, but 100 is still a good start, and I only got that because of you people. Because of you people who shared my posts, shared my videos, subscribed to my channel, send me all those comments and messages. That has all only helped me get motivated and create much more videos like this. And that's why I would like to thank each and every one of you who have supported me on my channel, and for all those who will continue to support me throughout my YouTube journey ahead. So let's get into today's video where I'm going to talk about the best settings for videography on your Canon M6 Mark II. So recently I have posted a video showing you the best settings for photography using your Canon M6 Mark II. And in that video I had mentioned that if you'd like to have another video showing you the best settings for videography using your Canon M6 Mark II, then leave me a comment. And Jay Hunter was kind enough to appreciate my video and also send me a request asking me to create a video showing the best video settings on the Canon M6 Mark II. So Jay Hunter, this video is especially for you and for everyone else who wants to know the best settings for videography using your Canon M6 Mark II. So now let me take you over to the camera where I'll show you the best settings for videography on the Canon M6 Mark II. Okay, so the first thing you want to do on the camera is to make sure that you're in the video recording mode. Once you're into the movie recording mode, you'll have three options to choose. So you have the first one, which is the movie auto exposure. So this one basically allows the camera to decide the shutter speed and the aperture for you. You then have the movie manual exposure mode, which allows you to control the shutter speed and aperture, which is the one you want to choose. And you then have the HDR movie option, which basically retains more details in bright image areas. So the option that I choose is the movie manual exposure mode, which works best for me because obviously it allows me to control my shutter speed and aperture, which is what you want to have when you're doing movies. So you're going to click on that. And you then click on menu to basically bring up the options that you can see here. So the first option, shooting mode, is already what we discussed. The next one is the very important movie recording quality. So you want to click on that, and then you have two options to see. So that's the movie recording size and the high frame rate. I'll tell you about the high frame rate in a minute, but before that let's get into the movie recording size. So let me click on that. And as you can see, there are a few options to choose. So you got two 4K options. One is the 30 frames per second and the other 24 frames per second. You got three full HD options, 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and you also have the 24 frames per second. You also have the HD option, which is 60 frames per second given to you, so that's good. And you'll also notice that there is a full HD 30 frames per second option, and that is a compressed version of the standard full HD 30 frames per second. So if you are doing a full HD in 30 frames per second, make sure you select this one because it's the normal standard IPP option and it won't compress your video compared to the other option that is available. So make sure that you're into this one. And the one that works best for me is basically the 4K 30 frames per second, which I use outdoor and indoors. And if I do plan to have a lot of video clips during my shoot, then I go with the full HD 30 frames per second, so that way I have a lot more space available in my car to save all those clips. So those are the available options. Now if there are some of the options that you don't see here which you are looking for, then it might be worth just going into the menu again, and you have this option. I'll just go into, so you have the option which is showing video system there. So that's available in the menu option up there, menu 2 and video system, and then you click on this video system option and then you'll see for NTSC and for PAL. So if you choose for PAL, for example, and then you go back into your video option available, you'll see now the list does reduce down. So you have one 4K option, which is just the 25 frames per second. You got one full HD 50 frames per second. You got the other one full HD 24 frames per second. You also have the light compressed version of the full HD 25 frames per second and the HD 50 frames per second. So you have these options available, but again, the one that obviously gives you a lot more option is the NTSC option, so I'm just going to put that back for NTSC. Okay, so I'm just going to go back. Okay, so those are the options available as you see there. So we noticed in the movie recording size there's no 120 frames per second available, and you must be aware if you have the Canon M6 Mark II that there is a 120 frames per second option given in the camera, but where is it? So you'll see that by going back and clicking this high frame rate, and you'll have this disabled by default, so you want to enable that. And as soon as you enable, you'll see that you have the 120 frames per second showing in there. But note that once you are into this mode, your autofocus, your digital image stabilizer, and also your audio will not be available on this. So just make sure that you know about these before you choose your 120 frames per second. So if you enable that, then your all other default movie recording sizes are taken off, and you just have the 120 frames per second to use, which is your beautiful slow motion movies that you want to do on your camera. So I'm going to disable that for now, but that's where you'll find the 120 frames per second. So let me just put that back. So the next option we have is the sound recording. So by default you'll have it as auto. You have options like manual or even just disabling it from your camera, but I generally tend to keep it on manual, so that way I get a bit more control. So the recording levels, as you can see I'm talking now, is sort of peaking up to 12. If I do increase that to sort of the higher range, then it may go up to all the way to 0, which is not what I want to do, because then you'll have a lot more distortion showing. So as you can see, as I'm talking, it's peaking up right to 0, which is not what you want to have. So the recording level, make sure you just keep it in the middle, so that way it just picks up to 12, and that's what you get as a really good quality for that. So I'm going to click on that. You also have the option of wind filter, and so that one you want to keep on. If you're outside doing recording using this option, then yes, you want to have the wind filter kept auto. You have the option of disabling it if you want to, so but I'll just keep it to auto, and that works best for me. You also have the tuning ATLC again, so that's again auto, so I'm going to keep that. And then let's go back and check the next option, which is the lens aberration correction. So if you have updated your firmware, then your camera should recognize all the lenses that you're using on it. So by default I keep this on and enable for the data correction, and you also have the chromatic aberration correction on, so that I keep both on. So ensure you keep those on and you enable them, so that way your camera recognizes the lens that you're using. So the next option is the remote control. I generally don't use a remote control, so I just keep it disabled, and hence that works best for me. If you are having a remote control that you want to do, then yes, make sure that you enable that option. So for now I'm going to disable that. You also have the option to have a time-lapse movie, so that's really nice as well, and you have it inbuilt in your camera, which is a great feature to have. So you click on time-lapse movie, and you have few options. You have scene 1, which is shooting movies subjects such as walking people. You have the next scene 2, which is good for moving clouds, and then you have something that's really slow, changing scenes. So then you have the scene 3 option. You also get a custom option to choose, and that way you can decide the number of shots you want, the number of intervals to have the shots taken for. So it's all very customizable, and that's a good option to have in the camera. If you want to have a sort of review of, or like an example of the time-lapse movies using the Canon M6, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to make a time-lapse movie going through each of these options, so that way you get a better understanding of it. But if you do want to have a time-lapse movie done with your Canon M6, you know where to find that option. So you just need to come in here, and you can choose the scenes, and then you have all these other options that open up for you to sort of explore and do. So I won't go much in detail for this one, but if you want, then just let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to do that for you. Let's go to menu number 2. So in here you have the ISO speed settings, which I generally don't change. So this is basically 640, it's kept by default. If you were using the auto exposure option, then you're basically telling the camera that, okay, I want my auto exposure on the ISO should be 12,800. So you can go up to high as 25,600, but then it basically gets unusable. Even at 12,400 it is sort of unusable. If you have a software that can sort of take out the noise and all, then great, but yeah, for me the max auto 6,400 works so nice, and so that we have also set the same for the auto, as you can see there. So I'm going to keep it to that. And then you have the auto lighting optimize options, which I don't really use, so I keep them off. I also keep off my highlight tone priority, so I take that off, and I don't touch this metering timer. Again, just kept at the default 8 seconds. You have the third page, so the white balance again. So this one is really important and nice feature to have. So you got the options, as you know, the auto white balance, you got the daylight, shade. Now, just a tip, when you are doing videos, make sure you don't choose the auto white balance, because what then happens is, as you have the scenes changing, like you have the sunset, sunrise, or you have changing clouds and shadows coming in, then it sort of affects the whole video. So if you want to have a constant color on your image, make sure you choose either of these, like a daylight, which will just keep it all warm, or if you have, like in this case in my room, I'm using the color temperature control here, so that allows me to change the colors as per my room temperature. So if I have a tungsten light going on, then I can go a bit warmer, and warmer I would mean going down. So if anything lower on the numbers, it gets your white balance warmer, and if you increase it, it gets it on the colder side. So make sure, depending on the lighting that you have, you choose the correct temperature, and that will get you the best video for you. I don't have any custom white balance, so I'm going to ignore that. I don't really play with the white balance correction again, so again I don't touch there. You got few picture styles available. So the one that I choose, which you can also get on your camera, is the Cine Style. So that basically gives you a nice flat image to work with in your video production. So that allows you then to control your contrast, your highlights, your shadows. So it's a really good option to have. So if you don't know again how to get the Cine Style available on your Canon M6, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to show you a quick demo on how you can have the Cine Style enabled on your Canon M6. I don't really play with the high ISO, so again I'm not going to touch that. The autofocus method, again, this one's really important when you're doing video. So I keep it on my eye tracking, which is the one that is really effective and works well for my vlogging. And again, if I'm doing any sort of outdoor shoots as well, I tend to use this. You have a few other options like the sport or the 1-point autofocus or the zone. But yeah, the one that works generally, if you are a vlogger like me, or if you're just doing outdoor shoots, then yeah, the eye tracking is really a good option to have. So I'm going to keep it on that. You have the eye detection autofocus again, so again you can enable that. So that's a really good feature to have, which it complements well with the autofocus eye tracking method here. So make sure you get that enabled as well. This one is a really good option as well, touch and drag autofocus settings. So what this does is basically, if you are sort of using the eyepiece here to have or do your recording, and if you want to get your focus moved, then you have the option to basically select the focus points using the screen here. So again, if I enable that, you have then the positions available methods. Okay, so that's relative, absolute. I keep mine to relative, and then the touch area basically is what you want to have. So if you are left-handed, then you want to make sure that you're sort of enabling left, so that way you sort of use the left side of this panel to choose your focus points. If you are a right-handed like I am, then you're going to choose right. If you want your focus points to be on the top or the bottom, you have all these options again. So I tend to use right, and that way once I look into the eyepiece and if I want to get my focus done, I can just select on the screen and choose my focus points, which is a really good feature on this Canon M6 Mark II. And you then have the lens electronic manual focus. Again, I'm not going to touch that, so that's really not helping with the videos, so I'm going to ignore that. You then have the manual focus peaking settings. So this one is good if again you are not using the autofocus option in the camera. So if you want to manually sort of focus something, then this option is really good, because what this then does is it sort of allows you to focus on the point, and wherever you're focusing, it sort of highlights a color. So you have these color options, which is red, yellow, or blue. For me, the red works nice. So anyway you're selecting, it will highlight the color for you. So that's nice to have. Level, again, I'm going to keep it on high, so that way I'm covering most of my highlighted area, so I know where exactly I'm focusing. So I'm going to keep that to that level high. And then you have the image stabilization settings again. By default it's on, but if you'd like to have that enabled, then you have this option here, digital image stabilization. So this one is basically, if I select enable, it crops the image to a bit and sort of stabilizes the image. It works almost like the warp stabilizer option available in Premiere Pro. So again, if you choose enhance, it crops it up even further, and then it sort of makes the whole surrounding area a bit wobbly, sort of, which is not best looking on your videos. So I tend to disable the whole thing because I don't, and since I have my tripods or gimbals that I may be using, this option is really not of good use to me. So if you are clicking handheld, then you may want to just enable it, but do not use the enhanced, because as you'll notice, then you'll have a lot of sort of wobbly or like a warp effect around your videos, which is not best to have. So I'm going to disable this for me. You have the auto level settings here, which again I don't want to enable that, because again I am controlling this camera all manually, so hence I want to keep it to disabled. You then have the movie servo autofocus option. So they, again, nothing that I will change, so I'm just going to keep that enabled. And those are the important ones. If you have any questions regarding the menu settings that we have gone through, feel free to send me a comment and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Well, I hope that video was helpful to you again, and if it did, don't forget to leave me a like, and also send me a comment and let me know if you were able to explore those settings or try out different settings, or something that I may have missed out that you'd like to highlight back to me, and I would appreciate that. If you are new to my channel and if you like my videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to get notified when I upload my next video. And a big massive thank you once again to everyone who has helped me reach 100 subscribers, and I know with your continued support you will help me reach my 1000 very soon. And until my next video, keep practicing and keep clicking.